Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Diana's Talk Show. My name is Diana. I am a college student in New York City. I make videos to document my journey as a film major, but also I like to talk about self-development and spirituality on my channel because I'm super passionate about those topics. And in today's video, I wanted to talk about a big takeaway that I got from 2023. I wanted to share like a big lesson that I learned in 2023 that I'm going to be taking with me into 2024. I want to start off by saying that I love New Year's. I love the energy of this time of year. December is a good month to reflect on the year and think about everything that I learned and everything that I overcame. I look back at the year fondly. I look back with pride and nostalgia because, it's just so sweet to think of like everything collectively, like that I went through. And also it's nice to reflect because I can see situations that I got over, and sometimes I'm in a situation where I think I can't ever get past this, or I'm like, oh, how will I ever get through this? How can I get over this? And I got over it. I got through it. So I hope this inspires you to reflect on the year as well, and to also acknowledge how far you've come and celebrate how far you've come. I feel like New Year's is such a good time to celebrate how far you came, and recognize that. So a huge takeaway that I got from 2023 was about discomfort, and how when you make the right decision, it does not always feel good. So it's like a mixture of those things. So what I mean by comfort and discomfort, I learned that discomfort is not always a bad thing. Discomfort comes when you're doing something new. Sometimes when you're doing something new, you feel uncomfortable because it's like your internal limit is being like challenged, I have a few examples, but the first example I wanted to talk about was that I did a bake sale a few weeks ago. So I did a bake sale for the first time. I've never had my own bake sale. I never sold my baked goods before. And I wanted to have a bake sale at my school to fundraise for my thesis film. So I'm a senior film major at college, and we have to do like a film, like a short film, to be like our big final project, and it's something that we work on the entire school year. So I'm going to be filming like next month, and I wanted to fundraise for it, but I wanted to have a bake sale. And right before the bake sale, I was having like stressful, anxious thoughts, and I was having absurd thoughts. Like, I know that I cooked everything right. I know that I did everything right, but somehow I still was receiving thoughts like, oh my God, what if I give people food poisoning? Am I sure that I did the right thing? Maybe I shouldn't have this. Maybe I shouldn't have tried to do this bake sale. Maybe it's a waste of time. Maybe, I was having all of these absurd thoughts, fearful thoughts. And then I had my close relatives and close friends try the pastries because that's how paranoid I was, maybe. And and one of my close relatives is a professional cook. Like, she knows what she's talking about. She tried it and she was like, this is really good. Like, this is a really good muffin. It's cooked right, for sure. Definitely sell this. You're good. And then my other friend was like, yeah, this is definitely cooked right and it's good. I don't know what you're talking about. Chill out, And I was having these anxious thoughts, but I caught myself and I realized that I was having these absurd thoughts because what I was doing was something I've never done before. That's something very simple, right? It seems simple, but you sometimes limit yourself or hold yourself back when you're attempting something that you've never done before, because there's an internal limit that says like, oh, this is the worst case scenario that can happen. Are you sure you want to do this? Fear shows up in fearful thoughts that tell you like, let's look at what could go wrong. Let's look at the downsides. What if this happens? What if this goes wrong? What if the worst case scenario happens? In the baking example, in my bake sale example, the worst case scenario would be giving people food poisoning. And like, that's bad. but it was coming from a random absurd place. Like it was coming up right before I was gonna bring my bake sale to my school to sell. That just, I caught myself. I realized like, okay, no, we're going to go through with it. I'm going to go through with it and I'm going to learn from this experience, and I'm going to have this, because I feel like that kind of like showed up to make me scared, and the fearful thoughts kind of showed up to make me scared and to pull me back, because what I was attempting was not known. So when you leave your comfort zone and you do things that are different and things that are new, you're leaving the safe zone. So when you cross that threshold, you get these fearful thoughts, sometimes because it's telling you, oh, this is not safe. We don't know what's going to happen if you do this. Like, we've never had that experience, been in that experience before. So that's like a valuable takeaway that I got recently, that I feel like I'm happy that it finally sunk in. I'm happy that this realization finally sunk in and that I got to gain awareness of it. And another example that I have of this is I looked back at my older YouTube videos lately. So I started my YouTube channel, in 2022. That's when I started posting videos, and I made a few videos where I talked about my experience transferring colleges. I'm in my 5th year of college, because like in the middle of, after my first 2 years of college, I decided to take a semester off and I decided to transfer. And I talked about my experience in depth in those videos, but I looked back and I listened to my reasoning, and this didn't resonate as much with it. And I realized that I changed my mind a bit, or like when I look back on what I said in hindsight, I realized that I look at things differently now, and that's okay. So what I mean by this is that I think the reason I transferred colleges was because I wasn't uncomfortable. So in a way, I came back to what was comfortable, because the first college I went to, it was out of state. It was in the Midwest. It was in Minnesota. And I am born and raised in New York City. So that's vastly different. But after the first 2 years of college in Minnesota, I decided to transfer to college in New York City. So I moved back to New York City. I moved back to where my family was, where my long-term childhood friends were. This is like what I knew. This is where I grew up. And I think that in a way, I just came back to what was comfortable. Like, I was like, looking back at my videos, and I'm like, I could see that, like, if I had stayed and pushed through at that college, I probably would have learned another set of lessons or something. And I'm not hard on myself or anything. I don't regret anything, because I love the growth that I did. And I like the person that I became because of all my decisions. And we're always growing. We're always changing. This is kind of a side note, but I feel more confident about my decision making now anyway, because I believe that there are no wrong decisions. And I finally accepted that belief for myself. I accepted the belief for myself that there are no wrong decisions, because any decision you make, it will lead to a lesson or an understanding. It will teach you something. Every route teaches you something. You're going to learn something. And then, so that's why I'm not hard on myself for any decisions I made. And I don't look back with regret, but I look back with honesty. I look back with more self-awareness and honesty. Like, oh, okay, I said that I transferred this college, and I had my reasons. I trust that I knew what was best at that time for myself. But at the same time, I didn't know what I know now back then. So it's not like back then I didn't have the awareness that I have now, because I didn't have the awareness that, oh, you feel like a fish out of water. You feel uncomfortable because you're in a new environment. That doesn't mean that it's a bad thing necessarily, or it means that that's just simply put, it just means you're in a different environment. And you're going to learn something from this. It's going to teach you about yourself. It's going to teach you something. But I didn't have that awareness back then. So I came back to what was comfortable. And that is fine, because I eventually I eventually got to this truth. at the end anyway. And I also wanted to talk about, this kind of segues into my third example. Like I have like a few examples, but this is another example. It's about outgrowing things. So this year was a big year for me of outgrowing people, outgrowing things, outgrowing habits, outgrowing mindsets. And I realized that like that comes with its own complexities, right? Because when I had to end relationships and I had to like let people go, that came with guilt and overthinking sometimes. Like sometimes I wondered, should I let them back in, or was I too harsh? And I don't regret anything because I'm happy for how everything turned out. And I think overwhelmingly I'm happy that I let go of what didn't serve me, even though that was not the easy thing to do, even though that was not the comfortable thing to do. It is not comfortable to do what's right for you all the time, because then you have to let go of that comfort. You have to let go of familiarity and safety for the sake of growth. Sometimes if you want to grow, you have to let go of things that don't fit anymore. It's like trying to fit into clothes that doesn't fit you anymore, because like, you know, your body changed and you outgrew it. You can't just like force yourself to fit into something anymore unless you want to stay the same. If you're happy where you are, then that's fine. But if you're not happy with you are, that means something has to give, something has to change, something has to shift. And that doesn't mean that that's going to sit well with everyone. Not everyone is going to get it. So when I was letting people go and I was like kind of changing what I wanted to surround myself with, I felt guilt and I felt sad. You know, there's definitely a sense of grief that comes with letting things go. There's a sense of grief that comes when you end relationships and whatever, because you had plans, you had promises. We make plans with each other as people. We make promises to each other. And when that falls through and that can't be fulfilled, it is sad and it brings grief. And that's normal, but that doesn't mean that you have to run back to the person. You know what I mean? Like, just because you feel sad that something ended doesn't mean I'm going to go running back to that person, or like to things that were comfortable, because I know that it didn't serve me. And yes, I felt grief when I faced endings. Endings sometimes bring grief, and that's okay. And I journaled about it. I dealt with it. I dealt with my feelings. I acknowledged my feelings, but that doesn't mean that that's a sign that I need to go back to who I was before, or I need to go back to the things that made me who I was before. So yeah, that's a big takeaway that I got from this year. Like the general big lesson is about discomfort, and that discomfort is not always a bad thing. Yeah, this one main lesson I feel like encapsulates a lot of my experiences and a lot of my growth, my personal growth this year. So I hope this invites you to reflect on your year. Feel free to leave me a comment down below about what you learned this year. Maybe if you have any experiences with fear and fearful thoughts trying to pull you back in when you're trying to go out and experience something different. Thank you so much for watching. Happy end of 2023. Thank you for being here. I will talk to you in the next video.